Hello, welcome to Flirting with Realities. And I'm not going to argue with whose turn it is to introduce this. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to be the bigger person.
Or were we arguing?
This is Eric and Carol, and I'm nobody. This is Flirting with Reality.
It's a good way to sucker them in. You might feel like you get to watch an argument.
Oh, yeah, we're going to fight. Got my kombucha, which I messed up my kombucha because I've got a system. Now the system is messed up because, anyway, I can't refrigerate any of them because they're not fermented yet. And so, like, they're just going to have to not be carbonated. I just messed it up. I messed up the whole.
For those of you who don't know, this man is self-making his own kombucha. That's what he's talking about. Pretty fucking cool.
I've got three jars of kombucha going. And it takes about a week and a half or 2 weeks for a kombucha to be done. And for some reason, I waited till all three of them need to be made. So now I'm waiting for one to fully ferment before I can bottle it and all
Makes
this
sense.
stuff. So, yeah. What's up with you? Are you making kombucha?
I'm not making kombucha. What am I doing? I feel I've been doing that high vibe thing, which has really been amazing.
High vibe, what does that mean?
I have been watching Aaron Doty since probably about 2017-ish, I believe. He's basically someone who does meditations and talks a lot about raising your vibrational energy. And for those of you who don't know, it just means that you possibly could, well, we're vibrational beings. It's just, physics. And if you're angry, sad, depressed, you're vibrating at a lower vibrational energy than you would be if you're happy, joyous, and grateful. Just a quick summary. But he talks a lot about shifting your mindset, raising your vibration. This is about basically making a sort of jump to the person that you're wanting to be, and like letting go of beliefs and ideas that aren't serving you in your life, just to like sum it up. And there's several different categories and several different meditations, and this is the second time I've done something of his. The first time it was with a group of guys, and this is actually that was business oriented, which was great. This is more personal oriented, and it's fucking fabulous. And I'm really enjoying myself, and it's coming to an end, which is a little sad, but.
How many days is it?
It's been going at your own pace, which is another reason why I really liked it, because that conscious business accelerator thing I did, you had to do it with them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just all set up in the school. The courses, meditations, all of it's there, all the homework's there, and you just go at your own pace. And I'm about done. I have I think 5 things left, which I skipped today because I wanted to drag it out a little longer.
Oh.
But it's really been awesome. I feel like I've let a lot of things go that I didn't even really know were there, kind of just lingering about. And, I think we're all just a work in process, and who knows, I could do it again and probably discover something else that I didn't know was there. But that's what I've been really doing that might be a little out of the ordinary lately. Other than that, I'm trying to be really kind to myself. I've kind of realized that when I have an injury, which I have an elbow injury, I am really hard on myself because I pride myself in being a strong person, and you're less of who you normally are when you're injured. And I actually think it's a very good thing for me to go through. It's quite humbling and okay. So I'm going through that. And
That's kind of an interesting thing because a lot of times we talk about we are not our bodies, we are not our minds, we are not anything. And so it's kind of interesting to think, does it make you a lesser person?
no, and it's all just kind of a mind fuck thing that you do to yourself. Like when we were doing the living room last night and I'm barely able to help and I'm just pretty much standing around watching you.
We are rearranging.
The living room?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's stuff like that where you mind fuck yourself and you say things that aren't true.
Mm. That's interesting though, because it's like that's one of the hardest things I ever had. It's one of the hardest times I ever had is when I remember being like 15 or 16 and somebody would be like, yeah, you can go to work with like I helped this, like, I don't know what he was, handyman, framer. I don't know what he was, but they can go help him. And like, of course I didn't know how to frame or be a carpenter or anything. So while he's working and doing things, like I'm watching, I'm standing there. And that was the hardest thing I've ever done. Especially because like if you're paying me, it's kind of like I need
What
to be
can I do
doing it. Well, I
here?
need to like show some value.
Yeah.
And the weird part is like I understand this now, but I should have just stood there because that's what they wanted me to do. You know. But there is something inside me that pushes me. You know, and it's just I guess it's interesting because how many people have you seen that don't have any motivation to help? You know, like what do you think's going through their heads? Is it like, how do I get out of this, or
I'm sure a lot of different things, and that's probably
yeah?
one of them.
Well, but do you think they would have to feel guilty if they're like trying to figure out how to get out of it, right?
I I don't think some people would feel guilt.
But
I can tell you, having people in my past that were not voluntarily helpful, there was no guilt.
yeah, I guess I'm projecting. Haven't you ever been in a situation where you're like, I don't really want to help, and you like maybe want to get
Oh,
out of it,
absolutely.
and it's like
Like,
the worst feeling in the world.
not to call out a situation, but there was this couch moving thing that I didn't want to do, but I helped do. Like, I did not want to move the couch for someone, but I ended up helping anyway.
Well, yeah, but how guilty do you feel? Because I'm talking about like not wanting to do something and getting out of it, like being manipulative about like, hey, or like being late. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how people get away with being lazy. Like when everybody in the group is doing something and they're just kind of kicking back, like kind of hope nobody sees me. You know what I mean? Like there's those people. Like
Well, I can say that I've felt that way at my ex-husband's family's house. Like, they would put on Christmas and stuff, and like they'd be all in the kitchen, and I didn't feel comfortable with them as people, so I didn't like offer to go help because I didn't want to be in there with them.
but even that feels super awkward,
It
right?
was awkward because I think most of the time in those holiday situations, women are all helping each other,
Mhm.
but I just didn't fit in there. So I guilted myself when I would sit out of that situation.
Well, I guess even when I was in school and you'd always have these group projects, and you get them put in some group with some like crazy over functioning girl that's just like, I got everything, I got it. And you're like, well, okay. And just kind of like, it's an uncomfortable feeling for me.
I've been that person actually in college.
Yeah. I just think it's an uncomfortable situation to even let somebody do something like that for you. It's just one of those things that I don't see the reward of not having to do the thing as being more valuable than just feeling better about helping and doing it. You know what I mean?
I think you know this as well as I do because I've heard you tell your children, like, Porter's really good at doing things for Piper, and he is the one who is going to benefit greatly from that.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I'm super grateful for in my life is I had to do a lot of things on my own, and I'm grateful for it because it only did me a service to make my life even more successful, especially as a woman, because I think a lot of times women can get wrapped up in this, like, men need to do this for me. And believe me, you have to do a lot for me because I can't physically do it. And I understand that. But there's also plenty I can do for myself that I don't need to ask you to go get me some aspirin because I'm perfectly capable of going to the store to get myself aspirin.
Well, and
Something like that.
I think if feminists really wanted to take a look at themselves and like what they're fighting for, I think that is one of their biggest enemies is the female person. You know, and I think that's a good example of how my daughter's controlling my son and like, hey, do this for me, do that for me. It's women are so strong-minded and they're able to manipulate just because they're smarter on a level, you know, but that's what we're talking about is women can manipulate to the point where they damage themselves.
Yeah, it's doing yourself a disservice.
Well, and you know, by you know, there's gonna be someone out there that gets mad, like, oh, well, that's not how it works in my family. But you know, like a honey-do list. Is there a honey-do list for women, or is there a honey-do list for men? You know, most commonly it's a honey-do list for men. And my only point here is power can be found in telling people what to do and manipulating people for sure. But power to me is being able to take care of yourself and being able to do everything for yourself. And I think when you're delegating things for people to do for you, you never learn how to do it yourself. And so you're always technically at the mercy of somebody. Like, how many problems are created when somebody creates a honey-do list and then that honey doesn't do what he's supposed to do, and then it's a conflict. It's like, you want something done, just do it yourself.
Or, I think another great example is if you're a team and it's not a honey-do list, it's a we got this together list.
Should be, yeah. But that's the foundation. So if you're like our age, like if you're in your 40s and 50s and you've never done anything for yourself and it's always been honey, do this, do that, and you don't know how, well, now there is no let's we got this because you don't know how to do anything because you've never educated yourself on how to do things. You just always told people to do them for you. And so you're weak in that sense. Your only chance is finding people that will constantly do things for you. Like, you have to have those people around you that you can control. But the true power is like, well, what if everybody's gone? Like, and you can do everything yourself.
Yeah.
That's true power to me.
It is very empowering.
Like, I was thinking about like power. Power is interesting, and I've had this thought for a while where power is interesting because you can be powerful and manipulative and you can have a lot of things, but that's actually weakness in my mind.
Mine too.
Because strength and true power, it's like, what's the phrase? Would you rather be feared or respected? When you control on fear and people do things out of fear, that's weakness. That's what
It is, and you're not having fulfilling relationships, and the people around you aren't fulfilled with you either. So, yeah, it's not powerful.
Yeah, true power is somebody respects you
They're
and you
empowering
work
you.
together.
Yeah.
Like that's what power is. That's
I
what
agree.
strength is. And that's what a real man or a woman looks like to me, is somebody who's strong like that. Somebody who's just manipulating and like cheating and lying. That's not power. It's actually weakness. It's the opposite.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you couldn't be more right. It is weakness.
But it's interesting because you and I talk about, the interesting part is life right now looks like in a lot of ways a lot of control and a lot of manipulation and a lot of it's like everything's crazy. And that's what you and I talk about is like, if I was the president, why wouldn't you just be somebody that's like, hey, instead of, you know, all for me, how about we all just get better? Because when you all get better, that makes me better.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I would guess that you would benefit much more by everybody supporting you rather than you just taking everybody's stuff and running away. You know what I mean? It's like, but that's what I'm talking about. Is like, that's power. Power is to rule. Maybe the word rule is not correct, but the power to
empower
govern
your people.
Yeah, and be like, hey man, well, let's work on making people smarter, and let's work on people starting up businesses. And when people start up businesses and like everything's flourishing, guess what? I get more. I get way more. I mean, it's exponentially more. But when I just beat people down and take all their crap, I mean, I guess I still get a bunch, but now but why would you ever go that route?
Well,
because you're weak and you don't know how to go the correct route.
Another thing about that, when you're beating a whole like nation down, that's a energetic, like a low energy frequency, basically. So you can feel it going on. You can feel division, hate. I mean, I think it's definitely like showing in the world like that's what's happening. Is people are just being beat down.
But isn't it interesting that how does that happen? How does that how I know you and I have talked about this before, but how does that happen when it's like what we're talking about is if there was a tide that was coming in and the tide was all about good and like supporting people and everybody's flourishing, it would just work. But for some reason, it's just easier. Maybe this goes back to the devil inside us that we talk about all the time. It's just so much easier. Hey, let's just lie a little bit. Like, let's just steal a little bit because it really doesn't take a lot of effort.
I think too, once it starts, it just snowballs into something terrible.
Well, yeah, it's contagious, right?
But you have to look at historically. So I've been like reading up and asking Chat GPT, like, what similarities are we to Rome? And it just seems like historically this continues to happen.
Yeah, it's like a cycle.
Yeah.
It's like the reinvention of the Matrix.
Yeah. Exactly what it is. It's just like that.
But the interesting part that people don't get is when you get things by lying and cheating and stealing, you actually end up with less. And the example would be if you and I are in a relationship and you lied to get, I don't know, make something up, lied to get like some ice cream when we got groceries. I don't know. Horrible example. But if you lied to get that and I started catching on that you're lying, all of a sudden I'm going to be defensive.
Yeah.
And now not only am I taking your ice cream away, but I'm going to start taking other things away, maybe out of resentment, or maybe just that I think you're lying about other things too. I'm suspicious of you now because my sensors are going. So I'm taking things from you. So up front, yeah, you got some ice cream a couple times, maybe a bunch of times, depending how naive I was. But in the long term, you actually, instead of just letting me just treat you like a good human being and buying you things, now you're going without. Now you're getting less. So it's like a really short-sighted thing that people do is they think I'm going to lie, cheat, and steal to get what I want, but they can't see that they're actually getting less.
I think that's why they invented gaslighting. And
Did somebody invent gaslighting?
I don't know. Somebody had to have. But I think that's why, because that's what's happening to them. They start getting less. So then they start like fucking with your mind and going, no, no, don't you remember this? And then you start to question your reality. And in some cases.
So they're just pushing even further with the lies.
Yeah, so it snowballs into something even worse. Like it just doesn't stop at the ice cream thing. Cause yeah, you'll catch on to the ice cream thing, and they're like, "Holy fuck, you caught on to this! Now I got to step shit up. I got like times 10."
Just dig a deeper hole.
Yes, it just snowballs into worse, gross things.
But it's interesting because even still, then you're getting, maybe you got a little bit more by figuring out another technique, but it just comes back to you. It just comes back in the end.
The thing that I could say for me that I have discovered in life, that living from a true, authentic place is the most peaceful, happy place you can live from. And you get way more out of life than you could ever imagine than being that other person just trying to get things.
Well, but even think about this. So if you're talking about ice cream, you're talking about stuff at the store, material things that you're getting. Even the instant you get that the first time, you're still paying the price of guilt and how many negative emotions are coming in because you lied. Like, that's the thing, is how many people in society are lying and they have to deal with who they are. I think a lot of people battle with who they are, and they're in so deep they don't know how to get out of it. Especially what you're saying, when the gaslighting starts, when the bigger lies, what are you going to do, all of a sudden come clean?
Yeah.
You have to make up more lies to cover those lies.
I think eventually, though, it becomes your personality, and you stop analyzing it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Your hole is so deep that you're just, every minute of your life, you're just covering up stuff that you said yesterday. And then you got to remember all of it, which then I think that's when it becomes you, is when you're remembering all of it and it's just who you are now. And that's what I'm saying, is it's so crazy though, because just one lie will eat at you.
Yeah.
You can't live a happy life. Well, if you lied to me or if I lied to you, I'm sure we'd both feel the same way. It would just eat at you for months, and you'd be like, okay, and then finally, but you could come clean because of one lie. That's pretty easy to reconcile. But if it's just one after another, man, that you got to be a real badass to be like, hey, listen, I got some, like, a storybook to tell you of lies. Like,
I think, yeah, I mean, you would definitely start to question. I would, if you like all of a sudden lied, I would be like, my reality would be kind of like twisted, because I trust you so much. And I'm not saying that you couldn't like accidentally lie and then just say, "Hey, Carol, I'm not talking about that sort of thing." Like I realize we're computer programs almost, and shit spews out of our mouths, and you literally, we've talked about this. Anybody could just be like, "Oh, I didn't mean that." I'm not talking about that sort of thing. Like if you kept something going for like a good lie and then all of a sudden told me, I would feel like my reality of us was skewed. Like I'd be like, what the, like I thought I knew this guy, but he's capable of.
But don't you think that's actually true of? But I think it would feel like it's more impactful because, yeah, we've been together for years. But I think it's actually the same as somebody you just met. Is it's like even just the first lie you hear out of somebody's mouth is like, okay, well, let's shut this show down. But I think it's one lie with somebody you just met, or I think it'd be one lie even with me. I think one lie has that much impact no matter how great the relationship is or isn't. It's just like boom, it's just done. Like
Yeah.
we are just done. But like
Yeah.
it just took us from like potential to hey, like maybe you're an acquaintance now. Like
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that's one lie.
you can't really trust the person that's willing to keep something from you for, especially if it's something like ridiculous. Anyway, yeah.
Well, but they're willing to deal with that feeling. So I'm saying that you're willing to sit here and have a horrible feeling and you're going to ignore that feeling to save face. And yeah, it's like now, like anything you say, like I have to question it. And like, that's just too much work for me.
Well, me
Like,
too. And that's why I think accepting responsibility for yourself is just a huge deal because then you don't feel like lying, especially when you make it a habit.
But this is what we're saying is you gotta just kick it in the ass. You gotta nip it in the bud right now.
Yeah.
If you tell a lie, you just gotta go, I just lied.
Yeah.
I just lied. You have to openly admit it because where does it end? You're not just going to stop lying someday.
Yeah.
In order to stop lying, you have to openly admit it. And you have to like shame your consciousness or something. Be like, hey, I'm gonna expose you to the whole world. I'm gonna let everybody know you're lying.
Yeah.
And then that's when it stops, is when you're willing to like you say, open up and be accountable.
Yeah. I think so.
But this is also like something that's been interesting to me and that we've talked about a little bit too is um I just went blank thinking of the words, but basically standards. You and I have a standard that is like zero tolerance lying.
Yeah.
Zero, it's like zero for what the reason we just explained. But I feel like the world, I guess, like we just explained, is going the other way where, we lie. That's just kind of what we do. And
it seems like it for sure.
You're kind of an asshole if you don't let me lie. You're an uptight asshole. And maybe you need to ease up a little bit and understand that we're all human. And I'm sorry, you're so cool. Like, it's just interesting. I've just been thinking about standards a lot. And it's I think that's how I feel is the world is going this way. And then you and I are trying to go this way.
Yeah.
And it's separating us.
Immense separation.
But it's self-imposed to a point on us where because we are bettering ourselves, we expect, I feel like, people to be within a range of us.
For sure.
And they're going the other way though. They're going the other way. And they're going like, hey, yeah, I told you I was gonna be there at 4 and I was there at 5. I think that's fine. And we're like, no, like there's a window, like, and I think like 5 minutes is fair. And then they're uptight. But it's just interesting. I feel like today, if you're bettering yourself, then I feel like your standards also rise. And I feel like it kind of pushes you into a corner where all of a sudden, nobody lives up to your standards, the better you make yourself. But there's also like there's probably a million girls sitting at home right now too, and they have super high standards. Like, I want a man gonna make 200,000 a year, and he's gonna.
Okay.
Here's your.
Let's talk about this.
Let's talk.
So to me, and I just heard Matthew and Jay Shetty talking about this exact same thing. So that kind of standard they called egoic standard. And Jay Shetty said, like, the kind of standards we're talking about, like, you need to tell the truth, show up on time. Like, these kind of standards are emotional standards that, like, help you grow as a person. Mm-hmm. So, elaborating on the egoic thing, it's like the $200,000 a year, it's boosting your ego. Like, this person will be able to help me live this kind of standard of living. It's egoic. That's the difference. So those standards are so not the same thing.
So
it's coming from a what can you give me place rather than what can we build together place.
Okay. So, like, what do you know what some of your standards were before you met me?
Oh yeah, I know a lot of them.
Like, what are some examples? A man that I want to be with must have.
Well, it wasn't really a requirement that you go to the gym, but I wanted a man to be active and physically working on himself somehow.
And that's so you don't have to take care of him, or what?
No, because I know what it takes to get to that point. And it takes a lot of work. And it's not easy to start that or stay there, or I knew the characteristics it took to be that person. So I wanted those characteristics. Someone who was disciplined, had strong work ethic, cared about their health physically and mentally.
Just shows a lot about their character.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah.
The working out, that's interesting because, but at the same time, you'd guess that there are a lot of good men out there that don't work out, right?
Of course.
Would you have been in a relationship with one?
Yeah, very possibly.
Okay,
yeah.
So it wasn't a requirement. It was just a desire.
It was a desire. And I don't think I had a lot of like hard, fast rules, like standards, but certainly characteristics that doesn't believe in lying, like shows up on time, continues to show up, like takes action, like when they say they're going to do something, they do it, they follow through.
That's interesting because you just showed me that video of Matthew Hussey talking about, having discussions and having somebody, being like, hey, like, here's how I feel about something. And then having that person be like, oh yeah, I'm listening. And, how do they respond to this conversation?
Yeah.
Versus, oh no, like, you're wrong. Like, a deflection and it's so interesting because, I mean, once you showed me that video, it's, man, that almost feels like it should just be number one. Like, can I talk to this person when there's a problem? Because I feel like the answer to most people is just no.
Well, yeah, a lot of people get really defensive with you when you bring things up and take it really I don't know. That was one of my biggest things that I don't know if you call it a standard, but I wanted that ability to speak to this person as if they were my best friend and have those difficult conversations and have them care about me as much as they cared about themselves during those times. And of course, have the ability to accept responsibility for their actions.
And I think that's really kind of what it boils down to, right? Is finding somebody that is willing to care about you as much as they care about themselves. Because I don't know how you have a relationship without having that. If you have a person that's selfish, everything's just out the door. Like everything.
Yeah.
Nothing works when somebody's selfish. I mean, that's
No, it's just all about them.
all about them. But it's all about, and I think like selfishness even comes like with like lying because they want to get what they want to get. And it's just a lot of, yeah, I don't know. It's so funny to like watch relationships, and especially when you watch. I feel like the consensus now on relationships is like, hey, it's just relationships are tough, and you gotta do what you gotta do, and you gotta get through them, and you gotta hang in there. You gotta work on, and it's like I feel like if you're there, you're just like struggling.
I don't know if you remember this. We were on a hike and we hadn't been together that long, but I told you I think about relationships differently than most people do. I don't know if you remember me telling you that.
Mm-mm.
And a big part of that is for me there's no agenda of something I'm trying to obtain from you. It's like a duality, a unity thing. Like I'm not trying to get anything out of it. And in all honesty, if you came to me and you were like, I totally love you, but I feel like compelled to go do this for myself, and like something is drawing me to this, and I feel like it would make me grow and become a better person, and I need to go do it. I may like be completely like, I don't want you to go. I will miss you terribly, but if this is what you need to do in your life for you to be happy, then you absolutely need to go do it. And I think that's not a lot of people could do that.
What I think it's an interesting point because I think like there's feels like there's three levels, and I feel like most people, and since I'm a guy, I'll pick on the women because that's what I see. But I feel like most people are like, what can this person do for me? And I think it was somebody you were telling me about in your life was like, hey, I want to find a guy that has a house so I can have a
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck? Like
Yeah.
that's on your search list?
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing in all
Oh,
honesty.
you didn't?
No. I
Really?
don't think Alaska women are like that, or they voice it.
Oh my
If
god. I think that's all women. That's all. Here's the thing is I think most all women are like that. And I think the problem is most men play into it because most men are like, "Oh, like this girl is looking for what she can get in a relationship. So I'm
Yeah.
going to go buy a Corvette so it looks like I can give her a ton of crap.
Yeah.
Even though I'm in debt, it'll impress her. So this guy goes and gets a Corvette, and then this girl's like, oh, he has a Corvette. He's going to really like give me a bunch of money and like let me have this lifestyle. And then they get married, and she's like, oh, shit, you owe like 50,000 on a $51,000 loan for this Corvette. It's like you don't really own a Corvette. And then
Yeah.
all the problems start and all this stuff. Men feed it, and then women take the bait.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, I
this.
think so in today's society for sure.
But it's interesting because I feel like it's a huge problem. I feel like it's a huge problem because, like you're saying, the women want this, and then the men want that, and so it's all about what can this person give me, rather than what you're saying. So there's level one is like where I feel like 99% of everybody's at is like, what can this person do for me? And then the next step up from that is like, let's just coexist and let's just be as one and move as one, which is great. But then I think you and I work on another level, which is like, hey, that's not good enough either. Let's turn it up a little bit here, Carol Lee.
Yeah,
like, let's
what
be
can
better.
we build together?
Well, but it's like, let's control this world with our minds, and how do we do that? Work with me, and let's be. When you're a team, it's like, this goes back to what we were just talking about, right? Like, you can lie, cheat, and steal, and you can get things up front, but you get screwed in the end. But that's what can this person do for me in this relationship? It's basically lying, cheating, and stealing in your relationship, rather than helping other people flourish around you. If you're not concerned about yourself and you're concerned about your significant other flourishing, then if that other person's like, oh my gosh, this person's putting so much time into me to help me flourish, I should probably do the same for them. And that's how you get more. That's how you get maximum return.
Yeah.
Is by treating each other that way.
I don't think we're raising our children that way either. I know for me, and I'd be interested to hear what my kids had to say, but I felt like when I was raising them, I was raising them to also be a good partner. Like teaching them things so that they were bringing partnership to a relationship and it wasn't just selfishness.
Yeah, I think that's actually a big one, because if you're sitting around waiting for Prince Charming or Princess Charming, I don't know, what is the woman. If there's Prince Charming, you're waiting for Prince Charming, like, what do men wait for?
Cinderella? I don't know. I don't know what men wait for.
But how come there's not a term for it? Isn't that kind of weird? Like, women are always sitting around waiting for some magical man, and then men, are they sitting around waiting for something?
I don't know.
But don't you think that's a little interesting that there's a...
I'm sure there's some term.
I'm sure
I
there's
just don't
not.
know.
I think it's not a thing that guys do. Guys are just like, I hope someday some girl likes me. Any girl, like whoever, just somebody. She doesn't even have to be magical or charming. She just has to like me. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Where did I go before I was going on that tangent?
This is why I didn't allow my kids to watch those movies growing up. I don't know if you know that. There was no Cinderella or anything like that allowed in my house.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Because I don't know what men do. If women are sitting around waiting for Prince Charming, the thing is like, what do you have? You better be Princess Charming.
Yeah.
Because what happens when Prince Charming shows up and he's a great guy, and then you're just sitting on your hands doing jack shit all day? Like, the relationship's over now, because you're nobody. You need to be somebody special too, if you want the relationship to be special.
Well, I think that is a huge thing. Like, you need to be, first of all, if you want somebody spectacular, you need to be meeting that or better, for sure.
But I don't think that's a consideration. I don't think people think. I think they're just like, I can't wait till this super special person shows up.
I think on average, for sure. Yeah, like majority, that's the way it is. Absolutely.
Well, because here's an interesting thing I heard from. I was listening to this podcast one time, and this guy was like sitting there with like three girls, and the three girls were like, "Yeah, I can't help it. All I do, all three of these girls are complaining about the same thing, right? All we do is we meet men, and they just want to use us for sex. That's all they want. That's all men do, is want to use you for sex." And he's like, well, "Hold on a minute." He goes, "Why don't they use you for anything else?" And they were like, what do you mean? And he's like, why don't they use you for all your other things that are attractive to people? Why don't they use you for like companionship? Why don't they use you for money? Or why don't they use you for all these things that women could possibly have? Why don't they use you for any of that? And they were like, oh, well, I guess I don't have any of that to give. And
not only that, but if you're allowing somebody to use you for sex, you're involved in that scenario. I hate to say that, but you have a responsibility to that.
But the point is that's all they had to offer. And that's why they were getting used for it. And that's so listen, like if you're a guy and a girl, I think work both ways. If you went in to use a girl or a guy for sex, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, this person's like really cool. Like I like this person, and they have their shit together. They're an amazing person. You're not gonna just use them for sex. You're gonna be like, how do I stay with this person? Like hang out. Like I was just gonna have like sex for like a week with them, but now I'm like, I gotta figure out. Like I want to take them on some dates. And I want to treat them good, and I want them to stay around. If you're getting used for sex, it's because that's all you're worth.
I don't think that's the only time that happens. I think you could have a lack of inner worth and it could happen to you. And it doesn't mean that you don't have more to give, but that you have this belief that that's all your value is.
Well, but that is all your value is if you think that's all your value is.
Yes, that's very true. But you could possibly have more to offer. It could be a state of mind.
Yeah.
But for sure, if it's happening, there is a responsibility that you have in that.
Well, you know, and I think it's just I think it's insight for women is you can't just sit around and go, well, men use me for sex and I'm waiting for the perfect guy to come around. Have something to offer somebody.
Well, not only that, if it's really bothering you, quit giving them sex.
Well, then they don't have anything.
Maybe they do. Maybe they start to have value if they quit like just being used.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I feel like I'm the like a super rare guy when it comes to women and sex because I mean, like, yes, if I wanted to use you for sex, then I guess that's what happened. But it's not like I would want to use somebody for sex and then they don't have sex with me and I'm going to hang out. I think that's what a lot of women think is you can't just give it all away.
But the thing is if you're at a level where you're just not giving out sex, she may not want to hang out with you either. When you're at a mindset of I'm not just going to give this away to just anybody, she may not want to pursue hanging out with you either.
When I'm not at a place where I want to get off to anybody?
No, when she's not. She may not. You were saying no. If she's not giving it to you, you may not want to hang out. She may not want to hang out either.
No, yeah, for sure. But I'm just saying, like, I think women have this idea of you don't have sex on the first date because if you do, then the guy won't respect you and he'll leave you. And maybe that's true for a lot of guys. I don't know. But I was actually the other way where I think if you want to have sex, you should have sex. You should be a strong, powerful woman, and you just get whatever you want.
No, that's what I think.
just have sex. And if I don't respect you, then I mean, who cares? It wasn't going to work out anyway. I think you should just be who you are. I think that's attractive to me is you doing whatever you want to do.
That's where I think you need to be is if you're deciding to go have sex on the first date, it needs to be because you want to, not because you're trying to encapsulate something. It absolutely is way more empowering to be like, let's go. I don't care what happens after this. I want to fuck you tonight. And I think a lot of times the women you're talking about, they're not doing it because they want to. They're not doing it because they're an empowered woman. They're doing it because they feel like they need to keep the person around.
Yeah, I can see that. I guess I was thinking more about the girls that are like I really want to, but I can't because then you'll think I'm somebody, and it's like,
I mean, I guess there's those types too. There's all types, I'm
yeah.
sure.
But I always just thought that to me it was always like a turnoff to be like, why don't you just think for yourself? And
Well, to me, that kind of situation just tells you this person isn't for me. You're looking for the empowered woman that is
yeah,
like, let's go do this.
I tell you though, I don't think there's many.
Let's go get this hotel room tonight.
Yeah. What are we doing? 50 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of, I don't know how we got on dating and looking for.
It was kind of just a like domino effect of talking about like first the president in the world and like how empowering it would be if our people were being empowered and like invested in, and then it just kind of snowballed into
Relationships and
yeah, makes sense.
yeah. I don't know. I guess that's just I've been having problems with that lately where people it I've been having problems lately because I'm like, are my standards too high? Because I think you can paint yourself in a corner with standards, but then it's like, well, why shouldn't I? Like why shouldn't I look for super quality people? But then am I asking more than humans are capable of? Because at this point in time, the answer is yes.
No, you're not.
Right now, in this area at least, yes, I am. There are no people that, I mean, maybe there's some, but I don't know where. Like I haven't seen a decent human being in a while now. I mean, we're talking like you at this point. You've got to settle for like lying. Who have I
I
been
don't
around?
think you have to settle for that.
Well, you don't have to, but then if you don't, then you don't have friends, and you don't have.
I'd rather not have friends.
Well, but I have a point, right? I'm just saying, like, if you wanted friends, it's kind of like, I mean, in today's times, it's kind of like you have to settle for some lying, and you have to settle for some manipulation, or you just hang out by yourself.
Until someone amazing comes along and
Do you
you're
think
like,
that's going to happen to you? You think
yes,
you do?
yes, I do.
How long's it been since you had a friend?
I
A
haven't
good friend, a good friend.
since I lived in Alaska 6 years, 6 years
6 years.
ago.
So we've talked about this. You've had some good friends. I think I've had one, two good friends, and the other ones have serious issues. But I mean, I had friends, but looking back on it, I should have never even been friends with these people.
Yeah. I mean, I'm super like I talk my kids up. They're really good people and I know they'd have my back. So I consider them not only my children but close friends too. So I have that. I know my dad would do anything for me if I needed it.
Yeah, I think that's good to have family.
Yeah, but yeah, it's been a hot minute. I mean, I have to agree with you. Living in this area, I remember I told you I hadn't been here that long, and I did that Matthew Hussey retreat, which was amazing. Anybody that wants to look into that. But so one of the things that I promised myself I would do was talk to people, guys and girls, when I got back from that. And it was very hard here. Nobody like is very receptive. And I
Yeah.
I ended up quitting doing it because it just got absolutely nowhere.
I was laughing because if we go have a cheat meal at Chipotle, that's where I'm going. Is I'm like, how's it going with the burritos thing? Like I try to make this simple conversation, and like people don't even respond.
No, they don't.
Like I don't remember the last girl. Oh, the last girl. I have this thing that I talk about. It drives me crazy when I go to Chipotle, and they're like, what do you want to eat? And I'm like, a burrito. And then they start heating their tortilla, and they're like, do you want white or brown rice? And I'm like, brown. And then you want pinto or black? I'm like, pinto. I'm like, what kind of meat? You want chicken? And they go, okay, and they lift the thing and they get the tortilla out and they go,
what kind of beans?
what kind of rice? Brown rice. And what kind of beans? Pinto beans. And it's like, why'd you ask? But this one girl did it and she remembered I was quick enough to answer and I don't think she's used to that, but I answered all my stuff all the way down the line and she remembered all of it. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to talk to her. Right. And I was like, I'm amazed. Like, I'm amazed that you remembered everything. I think that's really great. And she just stood there, like no expressions on her face. There's no response. There's nothing going on. And then I just said something else like, I really appreciate you like getting all that right. That's really great. No response, no expressions, no anything. And it's like, I feel like you could just say like crazy things and people be like,
I mean, you can. I don't know if you remember that video I showed you guys where that guy just went into a store and was saying random, like crazy stuff. And the guy was like, yeah.
But those people responded. Those people were like, oh, yeah, great.
To, like, they knew what he was talking about and it was all bullshit. But yes, true, they responded.
They responded with, like, craziness. These people don't even respond. You can't even get an answer. Like, you can't say hi to people here. If you say hi to people, they're just like, they look at you and then they scowl. And then
it is a lot that way. I just try not to pay close attention to it, but you're 100% right. That's just what I was saying. I gave up on it. It just wasn't worth it.
But here's my thing is, I feel like, well, I know, if I never did any self-improvement and I was where I was at when I was, say, 20, now all of a sudden there's plenty of people to be friends with and you'd have friends, they'd just be all dysfunctional. And, you know, it's like it would be a different life. You would have so many more people to choose from. And so it's just kind of weird that the more you better yourself, the more you kind of screw yourself over, at least around here. Screw yourself over with a potential friendship or even significant others. Or
I don't see it as screwing yourself over. I see it as doing it as yourself a huge favor of not having lying, cheating, manipulating, gaslighting people in your life.
But I hadn't looked at it that way, and you're right. You're right. It's you are eliminating bad possibilities. Would you rather have bad friendships or no friendships?
I'd rather have no friendships.
Yeah, I guess you're right. But I guess either way, it's lonely. It almost feels more lonely to not have friendships than to just have like shitty ones.
I get that. I can see why you say that, but I mean, I guess because it's been such like a long time for me, maybe I'd just rather be alone than have that kind of energy around me, I guess.
But here's the other thing is I feel like it's been so long since we've had friends. Do you think if somebody showed up that was like actually met the standards, do you think you'd be able to like figure out how to not be a social retard and like make time for them and have them over for dinner or whatever, or play games? You do?
Yes.
Man,
absolutely.
I feel like I'm so far gone at this point that they'd come over and I'd be like, water. Like I wouldn't know how to treat them. I'd be like just throw the water at them. Like I don't know how to treat a guest anymore.
You would. It's like riding a bike.
Shoot, I don't know. I wouldn't know how to treat somebody. I'd scare them off and they'd be like, why can't I find anybody to be friends with?
I doubt it.
I'm not really that retarded.
You're not.
Yeah. Okay. Well, our sauna is ready, I think.
Sweet. It's that time.
It's that time. I'm getting tired.
Yeah, we got to go better ourselves.
Yep. Sauna, cold bath, meditation. So, we're still not really on social media.
I'm really not anymore.
Yeah, you deleted your accounts.
It's official. They're all deleted as of yesterday.
And I hope to be there someday. I'm still trying to run a business off of it.
Yeah, that's a different animal.
So, yeah, good luck. We're not on social media, really. Yeah, YouTube. Find us on YouTube. Find us on Spotify. you know, maybe if you like what we're talking about and you enjoy, leave a comment maybe, or you could share the channel with somebody and say, hey, listen to these crazy people talk. They're completely irrational. Or maybe, well, maybe I shouldn't say this. I was going to say maybe if you're up to our standards, we could be friends. But I don't know if we want to meet anybody from YouTube. Like, if you want to meet us, you're probably too crazy. There I go, shutting you off. Anyway, Spotify and YouTube, that's where we're at. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.